It's my great pleasure to introduce Tom Gump. Tom is in Minnesota, and is it Adina? Is that how you pronounce that?
Adina.
Adina, tomato, and in Morningside Club. And Tom has a huge passion for growing membership in Rotary. He's been really instrumental in forming a lot of new innovative cause-based Rotary clubs, Rotaract clubs, and satellite clubs. He founded the first ever Rotary Club to serve veterans and co-founded the world's first Rotary Club to end human trafficking. And he has been quite successful in doing all of these kinds of clubs. He also helped to form the Rotaract E-Club for Environment and the first ever cause-based international Rotaract E-Club, focusing on environment, which was a huge initiative that the RI General Secretariat and CEO John Huco referred to in his 2021 Rotary Virtual Convention. And Tom's in the middle right now forming a new Rotary Club of Minnesota Pride. So we were really excited to ask Tom to join us because we really felt that as our club continues to grow and kind of shape its future, we thought he might perhaps give us some ideas and maybe inspire us with some of the things that they've been doing around the Rotary world in the area of membership. And Tom is a gold level member of Rotary's new membership society, which is another kind of award platform base, if you will. He's brought in more than 50 new members just himself. So talk about growing Rotary, that is huge. So, and as I stated earlier, Tom and his wife, Catherine, and Bruce and I are going to be working together in Orlando this year, and we're really excited about that. So Tom, thanks so much for joining us. I know he has some people who are going to be a part of the conversation, and then our very own district membership chair, Steve Alice, is going to lead us in some Q&A and discussion at the end. So thanks everybody for joining us this morning. Take it away, Tom.
Thank you, Sue and Bruce. Thank you so much for having me and my friends here today. And we are so happy to be here with each and every one of you. And thank you, President Diane Sampson, and congratulations on having a birthday coming up soon. So that's going to be fun. So Bruce and Sue asked me to focus on a certain part of Rotary, and that's grow new clubs. And when it all comes down to it, when we talk about growing Rotary, there's only 3 ways to grow Rotary. We could attract new members, and I'm so glad to see Kathy's joining your club. First thing I said is, okay, they got that one down. They know how to they know how to attract new members. The second thing we have to do is engage, and I know Steve will help us when we get to the facilitation part. And that's always the favorite part for me of any of these presentations, is answering your questions, because I want to make sure you get the knowledge that you need and you want, and you use it when you go forward. But what we're going to focus on, and what I'm going to talk about mostly today, is the third prong of growing Rotary, which is forming new clubs. And it's so exciting. You know, when Sue talked about, and I'm so honored by that introduction, but when she talked about forming the Veterans Club, it's really funny because they call me Dad. So it's when you start these clubs, it'll give you such personal satisfaction. And Tari Marshall-Day can tell you about that because she just started a new club as well. So why do we want to start a new club? Well, it grows Rotary quicker. If you think about it, when you form a Rotary Club, you're adding 20 people to your district. If you start a satellite club, you're adding those 20 members to your club. You grow in chunks. If we were to bring in single members into our club one at a time, it would take quite some time to actually get 20 members in. But it also retains members longer. You know, most of our new Rotarians, they leave between the 2nd and 3rd year. You know, after the 2nd year to 3rd year, they have those lifelong friendships that we all have, and we don't want to leave our friends at that point. But the new clubs that we're starting, a lot of them have causes associated with them, and those causes bring a passion that keep people in until they become the Rotarian with the capital R. Our new clubs are also attracting more diverse members, and we'll talk about that, and younger members. You know, for the last couple decades or so, we've been in North America especially, and in Great Britain and Ireland and some other areas of the world, we've been declining in membership. Now, overall, we've been at 1.2 million for 25 years. But you know, some areas of the world like Africa and India are growing. But here in North America, we've had a trouble attracting young members and more diverse members. And now we've figured it out. When we start new clubs, and we'll give examples of this later, you have more younger and diverse members. And it makes sense. If you think about it, I'm in a traditional club, which meets on a Tuesday morning, 7:30 at a country club. And our service projects may not be attractive to younger people. I mean, we pick up trash along the highway. We make sandwiches for the hungry. We rake leaves in people's yards who can't rake their own leaves. And that's great because I get to serve with my friends. But it would be hard for me to recruit and go out to millennials and say, okay, let's go pick up trash along the highway and make the world a better place, because they want to have projects that have great impact and focus on certain areas like ending human trafficking. The other thing new clubs do, the fourth thing, is it reaches out in the community and it brings new members in. Most of our traditional clubs, they usually, people join them because they either work near where the club meets or they live near where the club meets. But these new clubs, they reach out in the community. And our Veterans Club, people drive 2.5 hours sometimes to get to our service projects and to get to our meetings when they're in-person meetings. And also, new clubs provide us an opportunity to partner with other groups, like the one that Sue mentioned about the Rotaract E-Club for Sustainable Environment. We partnered up with SRAG, and they gave us a list of 120 young people that we could contact, because in that case, they were just advising as part of the action group. They actually want to get their hands dirty and work on projects. So, and if you have partnerships with other groups to work on your same causes, you have a larger database to mail to, and they have members who could bring members into your new Rotary Club. So that's why we're going to form new clubs. But particularly, I want to talk a little bit about diversity. Last year, Lloyd, who's on the call here, who was our district membership chair, like Steve is yours now. And he helped a lot in our initiative to start these new clubs. And we added 80 female members last year to our district in just 1 year. And we went from 30% to 32.25%. And we did that with just a few clubs. If you look at the percentage of females in our clubs, and gender parity and diversity, the reason we want that is because it makes our clubs more vibrant and we have more opinions, and it just is more fun and we get more things done. And I could give you lots of examples of that. But if you look at our Eco Club, our End Human Trafficking Club, and our Empowering Women Club, it added a lot of females. So when we've been trying for years to add more women into our clubs, and we haven't been very successful at it. But then when we found out, when we add new clubs, we have more diversity. And I don't have diversity in terms of race because we don't track that at Rotary International, but we do track gender. So when it all comes down to it, really there's only 3 types of club. There's a Rotary Club, takes 20 members to start a Rotary Club, a Rotaract Club, which is traditionally younger, and that takes a recommended 12. You could start with less, but recommended 12. And a Satellite Club, which really isn't a club because it's really underneath a sponsoring club, that has 8 people. So there's traditional club models, and we have new club models. We have regular clubs that we call traditional. We have the Passport Club, which we're going to focus some time on. And I'm going to be asking Lloyd some questions about Passport Clubs because I know that's what you are, and that's so exciting. And Lloyd's going to tell us a little bit. I'm going to grill him on the tough times that he had in starting his Passport Club and how service fits into a Passport Club, especially when you're from different areas. We have cause-based clubs, which are my favorite, alumni-based clubs, interest-based clubs, international clubs. So I just want to give a couple highlights of these clubs so you could be thinking about them. So when you go out and start your next club or you want to tweak your current Passport Club, these ideas might be able to spark some ideas that you have. So Passport Clubs. Well, Lloyd, tell us what a Passport Club is.
Thank you, Tom. I had to make sure that I was not muted. A Passport Club is one of the flexible models of a club where you have the opportunity to be engaged with a variety of different clubs. And also, one of the key things when I think about Passport Club is the flexibility. When you look at why people leave Rotary, they leave because of I guess they didn't have the flexibility, things change in their lives. And the Passport Club gives them the opportunity to still maintain that fellowship and also to provide the opportunity to do service. You know, when you look at it, on your slide here, you have the three most important things here. The difference: members actually have the opportunity to attend other clubs, and for me personally, that was probably one of the most important things for me, because I got a chance to see what Rotary was like in a variety of different settings, and that was so important. As far as strengths, the flexibility, as I said before, life changes with some members and they really want to do service, but they have to leave Rotary because their club, their current club, is not flexible. A passport club gives them that opportunity. And of course, for those folks who travel a lot, the passport club is just perfect because you have the opportunity to visit other clubs, and your membership and your attendance is still counted there at those different clubs. So for me, the passport club is the ideal Rotary club. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Lloyd. Appreciate that. Lloyd doesn't like when I have the clicker because I move him fast and make him go quick. So corporate clubs are great. They're popping up in different places. I think in Pennsylvania, there's a club that's trying to work with a national home builder. A corporate club is when you actually have people from your corporation, you get together and you meet and form a Rotary club. They usually don't like to come to work early or stay late, so those clubs are usually lunchtime clubs. And you have to check with the corporation to make sure it works for them. If there's a bank, they might not want people coming in certain parts of the bank and that kind of thing, but it's something to consider. And I love these kind of clubs because usually when they have service projects, if you have a Target or you have a corporation, a Fortune 500 company, they bring lots of people to your service projects if you have a corporate club. So that's really fun. Now, cause-based clubs, they're my all-time favorite because, and many of you who know me on this call know that I'm passionate about these because if you have a cause, it's the most motivational, nothing can fire people up to do service projects like a cause. And so these clubs focus on a particular cause. Their speakers are that way, their service projects all focus around that same cause, which is the passion of the members. Alumni-based clubs are great because after passport clubs, I think these are the easiest clubs to form because you have the members that are already there. So a friend of mine from my club who was chair of our International Service Committee recently moved to Florida and she loved it. She loves Rotary, so she joined her local club. And but they didn't do any kind of international service. They only did local service. So I said, Paula, you need to start your own club. And this response is always the same. Well, that's hard. But as Terry and some of the people on the call that have started clubs, they can tell you, and Bruce and Sue can tell you this, it's not hard. You just have to find the right people. And if you have your friends and your friends come from some kind of knowledge of Rotary, like a host family for a youth exchange, it's easy to start. So we could talk about those later if you want to. Interest-based clubs are very similar to cause-based clubs, but it's around an interest. And I know Steve, who is your district membership chair in your district, he's looking to start a club that's around a Planet Fitness. So you'll see that little icon in the bottom right. I put a little dumbbell there. But you can start a horticulturalist club or a cooking club. I have a friend in Australia that just started a club around koala. And here, yeah, right, Tari knows about that one. And then here in the Midwest, we have a couple clubs that are starting around bee pollinators. So Lloyd, you should think about that since you're a beekeeper. International clubs in Chicago, not too far from where Bruce and Sue were when they were in Michigan, they have a couple foreign language clubs. Those are really good for international clubs. If an area speaks mostly predominantly Spanish, you could have a Spanish speaking club. So now comes the fun part. We've asked Gloria, Gloria Howard, who is the first president. That's not disrespectful. Gloria knows that I like to sing that when she's around. Gloria was the first president of our passport club here in my district. So I thought we could learn a lot from her just by asking her a few questions. So Gloria, are you okay if I ask you a few questions?
Sure, no problem. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you for being with us, Gloria. We really appreciate it. So I think we always learn, when people call me up and Tari emailed me this morning and introduced me to a new friend and said, hey, can you help him, give him some ideas for start a club? I always say, well, I can tell you all the mistakes I made in starting my club, so you don't have to do the same thing. Because I like to say, if Gump could do it, anybody can, which is true. So, Gloria, the first question I want to ask you is, what obstacles did you face when you started your Passport Club?
I think the biggest is keeping everyone engaged, and then the importance of attending the meetings, because although it's a Passport Club and you're not really meeting in person per se, that is a challenge in itself in making sure that everyone stays engaged, especially those members who are new to Rotary.
Mhm. And Gloria, I always wondered, if you have all these members from different states, how do you do your service projects and how do you keep them all engaged when they're all living in different areas?
Okay. What we did, because none of us had ever been in a Passport club before. Some of us have been in Rotary, for a few years or more. And what we did was a couple of our projects, we did do like an online project. One of them was Letters to Veterans, and that was so successful because everyone could be engaged online. We were doing the letters, you could see what everyone was doing. It was really, really nice. And other projects, we had like people in different states. So if they were doing a project or wanted to do a project in their area, which was similar to what we were doing. That was another way to stay engaged. And then also working with other local Rotary clubs.
That's just a great answer. And thank you for that. I learned so much when I come speak at places. Now I have a good answer for that question because it gets asked a lot. Thank you, Gloria.
You're welcome.
And now, how did you promote the club when you were starting and how do you promote it now?
Okay, promoting the club is kind of easy, but when you're trying to keep the members, membership is always an issue in any type of club, retention. But promoting the club, we just talk about the flexibility, because that's really what the Passport Club is about. It's about flexibility. That's the reason I joined. Um, and it's a time where you can actually map out, what does that flexibility, what do we want it to look like, and you get the opportunity to do that. um, no one says that you have to meet at this time on this day. That was the beauty of the whole thing, was the flexibility of it.
Wonderful. And when and where does your club meet? I'm assuming it's electronic and virtual, but when do you meet?
Yeah, it's virtual, and we meet on Thursdays. Actually, I think it's going to be moved to Tuesdays at noon. We used to meet on Thursdays at noon. Mhm.
Interesting. And I have a quick question for Joe Roth. Joe, our traditional clubs meet Monday through Friday, usually at noon or in the morning for breakfast. When do the new clubs that are forming mostly meet?
Most of the clubs seem to be are definitely meeting in the evening. The satellite clubs that we formed in our district have been meeting in the evening. We have one Passport Club that does meet on Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, and that seems to be the only outlier. But mostly the evening, and basically working with a no meal structure, so it reduces the financial cost to the members.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Gloria. That makes a lot of sense because, when you're president of your club, you ask all your friends to join, but some of them say, like in my club, hey, you meet at 7:30 in the morning. I really want to take my children to the bus stop. I can't do 7:30. So it's great that we have Passport clubs to help with that flexibility. I
Tom,
always thought yep,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to butt in.
no, Gloria, you're the star. Please.
Oh, I did want to say that that flexibility element, there are times when we found we had to meet in the evening, and we were able to do so, without any issues. And the other part to that is that when we do certain projects or different things, it's so easy to switch those times around. And that's what we mean about the flexibility of it. Everyone is aware of that, and they're okay and ready for it.
Wonderful. And Gloria, does a newly formed passport club promote differently than an established passport club?
Um, I would say yes and no, because I think that as a newly formed, you have to promote a little bit differently, because you're the one trying to show everyone else the benefits of being part of that passport club. And once it's established, now you gotta promote using some of the same elements, but what is it that you're going to use to keep and retain the members that you already have?
Oh, that's an excellent answer. Though you do sound like my constitutional law professor when you say yes and no. Um, so can you tell us, in your experience as president of your passport club, where did you find your initial members? And then after you get started, where do you find your current members?
Okay. Initially, some of the members were already there initially, but they came from like friends and family and friends of friends, and alumni, and also members. They can go to their district, okay, and see the members that are no longer engaged, okay,
Mhm.
and use that as a recruiting tool.
That's very interesting. And Steve Ailes could probably tell you this, but the most recent global survey that RI did said that 85% of current Rotarians were asked by an individual they know. So it wasn't an ad campaign, it wasn't a billboard, it wasn't social media. So I just didn't know if passport clubs were the same. So still that personal invite's important, I guess.
Oh, very important. And it's so important because when you're asking friends of friends and family, they know what you belong to. And for in my case, when I post things on Facebook, my social media, they see what I'm doing. And you'll be surprised at how many people are actually following you and watching what you do. And some just have never been asked, but they would love to be a part of some of that community service, that global service, whatever it is that you're doing. They just don't know how.
Interesting. Thank you.
Mhm.
And when you first formed your passport club, what did you do to celebrate that? And do you still have similar events like that?
Yes, we do. We had a Zoom celebration, to introduce the club and members, and it was really nice. Um, you were there. It was very nice. And it's kind of fun because we actually had another our first year at the end. We had another one, and the celebration was really nice because everyone could have, they had their favorite drink or they had something they wanted to eat, and it was just a fellowship and a fun evening. Um, and you were in the comfort of your home or wherever you were, but we were all still together. And today, the Minneapolis group, we're going to get together at one of the members' homes. And I'm going to go over there. So when I get there, one of the things that I wanted to have them do is to zoom in. Some of the members are in different states.
That's great. I love that idea. So, what one piece of advice could you give to this passport club that would help them grow and help them do everything they need to do to be a successful club?
One of the main and important things I would say is to always stay connected to the members. Because as a passport club, as strictly online for us, if you do not, it's easy for them to get lost. And I kind of look at it like the buddy system. You know, if there are certain members who know other members or feel closer, um, have those members reach out to one another if they're not there a couple of meetings in a row. Um, Always keep them engaged, encourage them to find their local Rotary clubs and connect. And that way you can connect to those clubs. And that's how you travel, that's how you visit. You know, just because your passport doesn't mean that you only have to travel to the international clubs. The local clubs do projects. The local clubs have very interesting speakers. We travel to all of those.
Hey, Tom, can I just ask a question kind of to piggyback on what you're saying, Gloria, regarding other clubs? And it's a two-part question. So I look at passport clubs as a great opportunity for people, and many of them are in our club. They left their traditional bricks and mortar club before because of timing or scheduling, travel, for us, relocation. How do you get the traditional clubs to look at a passport club or any of these other kinds of clubs that are out there right now and not be intimidated by us or worried that they're going to lose members because they're going to come to us? Because I always look at it as, let's have people stay in Rotary versus, you know, if they leave one club and go to another. I'm as a Rotarian, I'm better with that than somebody leaving Rotary. And I think some clubs get upset if somebody leaves one club and goes to another versus embracing the fact that they stayed as a Rotarian. Have you encountered that, and how did you deal with that, would be my first question.
I personally have not encountered that. Um, you know, what people say behind you, though, you don't know. But personally, I haven't encountered that. And the one thing I will say about when you're engaging with other local clubs is that I found that they were pretty excited because it was different from what they were accustomed to. And they were excited and they were usually flexible in us coming up with a time and all of that if it was different from their normal meeting time. And I can't say that, you know, I've had that encounter or that experience, but I do understand what you're saying and you're absolutely correct. So one of the things when I'm engaging or when we were engaging with other clubs is we're not going to them to promote. So we are actually connecting and partnering.
And so that's part two. Are they embracing members from your club who come to them and say, hey, let us help with your bingo, or will let us help with your planting trees project, or whatever project we might assist? Do they realize that's just extra hands?
Yes, they do. And the one thing that we never use is the word help. Because sometimes it may sound to them as if, oh, here they come. So it's very important in the language when you're speaking with the other clubs. And you know, how about, can you know, let us we'd like to partner with you. We'd love to add extra hands to your project and you know, and get some other things done. We're looking for to do something like this, and we didn't know who to connect to, and just talk and engage with them and get everything laid out.
Does anyone else have any questions for Gloria before we turn it over to Steve for our general questions?
Tom, I have a comment that I'd like to share. The Passport Club that we're forming down here in Southeast Florida, very excitingly, we've incorporated 8 past Rotary Exchange students. And that bodes well for the future of Rotary. Not only have they've been incorporated into the club, but they've been encouraged to take on leadership positions. So when you talk about alumni, you really want to concentrate on those past Rotary Youth Exchange students. They're looking to connect. And in terms of the identity as a passport club, they are a true example because they're in Australia, they're in Czech Republic, they're in Denmark, and these are all members of the same passport club. So it's very, very exciting aspect. So that's a great target audience for growing and increasing membership in the passport club.
Joe, I'm really glad you brought that up because I've never been to a single meeting in life or virtual where an exchange student was there that didn't add a lot of energy and just enthusiasm and make our clubs more vibrant. Thank you for saying that. So, and I guess Shelley, you have a comment.
Yeah, it's Michael.
Okay.
We're a team. So I have a quick question. So I guess on Sue's comment about whether or not passport clubs are feeling like they're integrated within the district. So one of the measures I think would be our district governors coming from passport clubs and how active are passport club members on their district committees. Now, probably on the second question, I suspect some of them are fairly highly active. And I say that because I look at our passport club and we have a number of PDGs. So inherently they're going to be involved in the district. But I don't know if all passport clubs are sort of, not a feeding ground, but a landing ground, I guess, for PDGs. So I'm just curious, have you seen a fairly, comparable participation level coming from passport clubs when it comes to district leadership?
And I'll let others comment on that as well. But I think, Michael, you bring up a good point because passport clubs usually, the majority of individuals in a passport club, unlike a traditional club, are people who know about Rotary, were part of Rotarian in another club, and then came back. And there are a lot of PDGs in those clubs. In our particular area, we only have one passport club, and it's only about a year old. So we haven't seen, no one in the DG line is from a passport club, but that gives us something to think about. And maybe Steve or Joe can answer that question for your area more specifically.
Well, in terms of our passport club, the person that has led the charge and has been the leader is a PDG, Marcy Ullum from 6990. And Marcy has since moved out of our district but continues to be involved in the district because it is a passport club. She was looking to connect back to her old district. She couldn't find a club that she felt comfortable in her new location. So I was the one that said, Marcy, why don't we try starting a passport club? And she's actually been the lead in that. And she's very, very excited about it. As a matter of fact, they're having their charter this coming Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, things are, PDGs are not our primary targets, but if you get a great one to lead the charge, it's a real asset.
Wonderful.
Tom, if you don't mind, I'll weigh in on that too. One of the issues that I've run into, it seems to work really well for alumni who have moved out of the area. I know I've connected Kathy and Ron Weens to the Passport Club. I'm working on another person who left our club and lives in Florida now. That seems to be an easy fit. But when I talk to, and I got to differ with Gloria here, when I talk to other clubs in the area, I see them sit back and get visibly defensive when we start talking about a passport club. They're very protective of their members, and that's a hard issue to get around. I know we talked about that earlier, and I just wondered if you had any other insights that's easier to talk about that particular aspect when I start explaining passport clubs to our regular traditional clubs.
Steve, that's a very good question, and I'm really glad you brought it up. And it depends on your audience, really. When you're talking to presidents and president-elects, especially at a PETS, and I say, you need to start a new club, they're always like, Tom, that'll take members from my club. So what I did was I talked to Brian King, who's our head of membership development at Rotary International. I said, Brian, this is just killing us in the new clubs. Can you please study clubs over the last 5 years that have started within the last 5 years and tell us how many individuals are actually new to Rotary? And Steve, what that study showed was 88% of people are new to Rotary. Now you can actually argue that some of those 12 would have left if they didn't start a new club. I wish I thought of the idea to end a human trafficking club, but the way it really came about was we had a tri-district initiative, and we had a champion in each club. And after a few years, they came to me and said, Tom, we're quitting Rotary. And I'm like, what? You can't quit Rotary. And they said, you don't understand. We get a speaker maybe once a year on our topic, or we get one district grant once every other year. We can't work on what we want to work with. So I said, start a club. And Steve, what do you think they said when I said that?
I can imagine it is, I don't want to leave my club.
That's one of it. And the other part, they said it was hard. And I said, no, it's not hard. I mean, if I can start a veterans club in Minnesota where we don't have an active military base and I'm not a veteran, anybody could do it. So they started their club. And of course, they were worried they weren't going to get enough members, but we got it done. And normally after you get, when you get about 12, you hit a little slow point, but you always come through and get the other people that you need. So I would say Rotary reaches out in the community with new clubs. Let's face it, if we had a club for everybody, we'd be more than 1.2 million. We'd be 1 billion people. We need to form clubs like Tari's doing that reaches people who feels they're not being served. I mean, when we started that End Human Trafficking Club, a couple weeks after we started, I was initiating in a woman from Turkey, and I thought, that's pretty cool. We don't have that country in our club right now. So a few minutes later, I get an email from Mark Maloney, who was the president at the time of Rotary International, and said, Tom, that was my sister. And I was like, wow. He said, I've been trying, the president of Rotary International tried for 40 years, 40, to get his sister into Rotary, but we didn't have a club that fit. We started this new club. She started, and she's a great member. She's now moving back from Turkey, but she's going to stay a member of the club. So, Steve, we need to form new clubs. And I know Gloria talks about engagement and retention, and that is so important. And you know that as district membership chair. But the third prong, I mean, you guys are doing great in attracting new members. You're doing great in engaging. But if we really want to move the needle, and RI will tell you this, I was on with Kamal, who's our new international membership chair. He was director for 2 years. He's from India. Everyone will tell you starting new clubs is what's going to move the needle. We don't want to be at 1.2 million for the next 2 decades. We want to grow. So thank you for that question, Steve. And I'll turn it over to you now, Steve, to lead our questions as district membership chair.
Hey, Steve, I do have a question. I was just, and I think this is a strategy for the district with our clubs. Would there be any merit to sending out, like at the end of every Rotary year, every club unfortunately purges that old membership, list before the new Rotary year starts. Do passport clubs have an opportunity there to perhaps recruit people who are in one of the categories that we talked about? They're moving, the schedule doesn't fit, and saying, hey, before you decide to leave Rotary, would you consider, and then give them an explanation of maybe what a passport club is and see if they would, come over before they resign. Would that help the membership?
Is that question directed to me, Sue?
I would love for you to weigh in and anybody else who has thoughts on it.
Sure. From my standpoint, that pretty much is part of my stump speech when I talk to clubs about membership is if you're losing a member who is moving or has become disconnected because of work and can't attend meetings, there are options available for them in the district to still stay connected rather than just drop out of Rotary. So Passport Club comes up, satellite clubs come up. We talk about those particular aspects rather than lose a member, develop that. Again, I run into the issue. There are some members, it's very hard to get around that defensive posture they take with membership. And I can tell you personally, for me, the hardest thing I had to do as district membership chair is see a good prospect for Rotary and then not want to claim that person for my club to say, okay, it's not necessarily the best fit for them. Let's find another club that fits better for them. Anyone else want to weigh in on that?
We have Liz Smith has her hand up.
Different topic, and circling back a little bit to the how does a passport club get started and starting a new club conversation. And I want to tee this over to Bruce Goldson because this club has an interesting origin story. I think, Bruce, it was underway and well underway But then we put together, Bruce, you and Sue put together a puzzle within our district that solved an existing problem. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we hit the 12 mark or less that Tom referred to, and we're kind of sitting there trying to get people to join. And I think it's a tough, the education process is probably the biggest thing with existing clubs and with future members, to get them to understand. And the cause-based part of it, which we are not, other than service, which is pretty vague as far as a cause, makes it even a tougher sell for them to understand the partnering with existing clubs and so on. So what Liz is referring to is we took a club in the district that, I won't use the F word as in failing, but they were in danger of going out of business because they were down to about 3 active members. They still had like 15 on the rolls, but none of them were really meeting. So Sue actually had the idea of Sue had the idea of, why don't we, when we were trying to figure out how we were going to get to 20, she said, why don't we see if we can just take over the charter of this other club, change the name, become a passport club. And instantly we took the 3 existing members that they had and we added the 12 members that we had that were engaged, and presto, we had 15. And then we got to our current 19 or 20 very quickly after that, because I think it is easier, and Tom and your group would probably know this better than I do. It's easier to add members once the club is a club, as opposed to trying in its I forget what the word is, provisional status, trying to say, okay, join us. We're not a club yet, but we're going to be. We need you. It's just once you're a bona fide Rotary club, then you can say, hey, we're a Rotary club, join us. Does that kind of answer what you were saying, Liz?
Yes. I thought it was an elegant win-win, because it moved the Passport Club forward, and it also took something that was, failing within our district and elevated it and brought it forward. So I thought it was a win-win. Well played.
I'm really glad you asked that, Liz. And that's, Bruce, I couldn't agree with you more. So many times if you're a club president, you feel like you have to bring everyone in yourself. And of course, we talk to the people we worship with and work out with the gym and work with and all our friends, family, neighbors. But, we don't have to do it ourselves. When we were trying to form the End Human Trafficking Club, we got to the point Bruce was mentioning, the 12, and we kind of stalled for a little bit. So I called Brian King at RI and I said, are there any staff people who'd like to join our club? Because this is a issue that a lot of people want to work on. So he fixed me up with the woman who was in charge of action groups and fellowships. She fixed me up with RAGIS, the Rotary Action Group Against Slavery. And we had 3 other board members join. And then a 4th board member who writes a newsletter allowed me to write an article. And then we got 2 people from Thailand that way. So there's all kinds of people to help you. And we have Bruce and Sue, we have the DG line, we have Steve, Steve, district membership chair, you have regional membership officers, you have innovative club advocates, you have I could go on with the acronyms, but you have lots of people to help. So just reach out. We just need the spark. If you have an idea, we can help you get it done. And it's not that hard to do. So thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Not seeing any other hands up right now. There are some questions in chat, specifically from Bruce. What do you say about members not able to deal with online meetings?
That's a very good question. And, the most recent survey that Rotary International did said that 11% of Rotarians and 7% of Rotaractors may consider leaving within the next year if there's only virtual meetings. And what I'd like to say is, to those individuals, if you don't like virtual meetings, we have clubs that meet in person. And if you have a particular area and you have a few friends, we could have an in-person satellite club off a virtual club in your area that meets. So many times we were talking about, we have to keep people engaged, like Gloria was saying. And Steve, so many times when we do these presentations, especially when we do interactive facilitations, we ask people, how many of you are satisfied and dissatisfied? And about 5% of the individuals at any particular meeting, in person or online, say they're dissatisfied. But when you drill down to and ask them why you're dissatisfied, it's really simple reasons. Either it costs too much, or I don't have that much time to commit, or there's too many responsibilities. Most often it's the time you meet. So we can start satellite clubs off of this particular club, this passport club, that meet at a different time. We had a club in the district to the east of us that had 25 members that went down to 8. This goes back to what Joe Roth was saying. They decided they were going to get a theme for their club and they were going to increase membership. So the current president at the time invited some Rotex members. Now this club is back up to 30 members. And what they did, Steve, is they made their meetings online instead of in person. So it did away with the fixed cost meal obligation. They made the meetings flexible so you could attend. And if you can't attend, all the meetings are videotaped so you can make up attendance that way. They made it fun, and then they added the energy of the Rotex. So just setting a theme to a passport club or any club can help sometimes. Thank you for the question.
Thanks, Tom. Lloyd, I believe you have your hand up.
Yes, it was a question that popped up, I guess, a few minutes ago. It was concerning the interaction with traditional clubs and passport clubs. The idea that you might steal some of their members. I guess, was confronted with that issue when we started our passport club. But one of the things that we actually did was we're on Club Runner. So once a month, we get a report that actually tells us the folks who left Rotary. It's a termination report. You just go to it and you press the button and they actually give you their names. Now, that report comes in 2 forms. One is that monthly termination. So usually during the year, you get 6 or 8 or whatever. That's just a proving ground for getting new members, because what you find out that when people leave Rotary, if unfortunately if they're not deceased, is that it's because of those things that we talked about, everything from unmet expectations to fees to whatever. And the passport club, when you form a letter in a certain manner, will address those concerns, and you will find that you will be able to get 2 or 3 members from just those letters. If you just starting out with a passport club, you can actually go to that same report, and you might be surprised at how many members have left your district, and you might be overwhelmed with maybe 2,000 or 3,000 names that you can actually send the information out. And there will be some that will be, not so nice letters returned, but most of them are saying, I wish I'd known about the club beforehand, give me more information. And it's an opportunity for you to, get new members to your passport club. Thank you for giving me the time to address that question.
Thank you, Lloyd. Appreciate that. I think Tari has her hand up too. And she made a really good point earlier, Tari, about exit interviews is something I really encourage clubs to do. If you could touch on that, I think that's great.
Absolutely. Good morning. I'm Tari, DGE, Southern Connecticut, and part of and founding member of the Rotary E-Club of Global Diversity and Environment of Southern Connecticut. But we do have members beyond borders. In fact, we're going to add our first Canadian probably next week, but I'm not telling any Canadians because I don't want them to steal him from me. But joking aside, though, it's been an amazing experience. And I will say that Tom Gump, Diana Nestorova, who's Innovative Club for Zone 32, she's been amazing. And I also talked to somebody outside of the country altogether in the UK to get some ideas. I think it's great to do that. On the exit interviews that you were talking about, 3 of our charter members are alumni that had left Rotary. I knew as DGE, I'd been fairly engaged, or obviously with the district, so I knew exactly why these 3 people had left, and I brought them back in. But it was a combination. I won't get into details, but it was a combination of scheduled dissatisfaction of expectations, not of Rotary or what was being offered in their club, but of their own needs and expectations. and also also price. And that also came up, and that's an interesting one. We have put in place. We're a loss leader in terms of membership dues, and we have found a couple of corporate sponsors who will understand it's not going to be tax deductible to contribute on the operations side of things, but to make up the difference, to pay sort of the pets fee, that type of thing, so that you're not in the red in terms of having to touch any fundraising money. So that was interesting. The two very quick points, and I apologize if I'm taking too much time, Tom. You can turn me off if you need to. One of the things that we did in our club is we engaged every single new member by allowing them to bring to the table their favorite charity. And that's can be sort of a scary thing. To say, we're going to let 24, 25 charities into our conversation and so forth. But they're related to diversity or environment. It's not sort of, random out there, some totally random thing. But that's a broad thing. So we call those signature, we call those signature causes. And each person will have an opportunity both on our website and in posts and Facebook and you name it, to highlight their causes and have their own fundraiser with a bigger platform. So, we have environment, for example, November, we're doing the Movember one, which is two of the gentlemen in the club brought this to the table. It deals with men's mental health, testicular cancer, all that kind of thing. They're passionate about that. Another of our members, one from Houston, his big thing is Houston AIDS Foundation. And he's discovered that in the pandemic with his research that the AIDS issue has been pretty much pushed way to a back burner. So he realizes Rotary is another big platform that he can get this story out. So that's engaged each one because we make it important for them to be able to present that as part of the bigger picture. There's a lot more that I could talk about, but those are just a couple of things. Please feel free to friend me on Facebook if you haven't already. I post a lot of things. And my club also has a Facebook group, so you're welcome to join that. So thank you, Tom, for the floor.
Thank you. Steve, we have Jim, and that was wonderful, Tari. That was very good information. Thank you. Steve, we have Jim Hinks, who's an ICA and independent club advocate from Southeast Florida. I thought he might have some good comments.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I just got to be honest with you. I'm a new ICA down here in Southwest Florida, and like many of you, have a lot of passion. And essentially, when I have a little bit of free time, morning, noon, and night, outside of being a husband, father, and running my business and just life in general, I try to learn more about Rotary, and a lot of times I find myself Googling and getting on YouTube and what have you. And I just stumbled across this Zoom meeting, and I jumped on late. And I just wanted you all to know how inspiring it is to listen to you and to learn, because it's a big job to have the membership chair position or ICA position in your district. And we all want to do well, but we have to have definitive actions on how to make it happen. We can wish it to happen, but we got to see it through. And it's just, for the couple minutes I've been on here, I'm like, wow, I wish I would have known about this earlier. And I'm just trying to learn. But in my district, we have 52 clubs. We don't have an e-club. We don't have a passport club. We don't have any cause-based clubs. We just have the traditional morning club or the lunchtime club. And we have, just in the last couple of years, some evening clubs that have popped up. But my goal over the next 12 months to 36 months is to try to educate our district on the variety that Tom has expressed. And I've read about Tom and all the things that he's done in his district, but I just need to get the word out in our district that, it's not your grandfather's Rotary Club anymore. And, there are variations, and, it's just one of these things that we got to reinvent the wheel. It's as I say, it's not 1975 anymore. We gotta attract and retain, and be have a model that is flexible to everybody and not just a certain group of people. Thank you for allowing me to speak and for being on the call. I didn't know if I had to be invited. Forgive me.
No, we're really glad to have you here, and you have brought up some really good points and really got us thinking. And if you're in Florida, they have a lot of veterans there. You might want to start with a veterans club, and we can help you with that.
Yes, Veterans Club. Just there's we have we have DAC-DB is what we use, and we have over 4,000, unfortunately 4,000 people in the terminated list that we're talking about creating an e-club for our district. And to be honest, I hate to admit this, but I didn't know much about passport clubs until the 3-4 minutes that you guys started talking about it. I saw a video online. I jumped on. I've been digging and digging, as you can imagine, doing research like an attorney or whatever. And I found the Zone 3334 ICA page, and there were some videos like Tiffany Irvin had something about passports. So last night at like 11 o'clock, I was watching a 20-minute video of her talking about passport clubs. So prior to last night and this call, if you would have asked me 2 months ago, what's a passport club? I'd say, well, I really don't know. I'm sorry, Well,
there's an ICA, Jim, named Chris Jones in North Carolina. I think that's still Zone 3334. And they had a list of 10,000 of all their past members, and they put together a big group and they called them all. And that's how they got their passport club started. So you could do that. I think that's a great idea.
Well, thank you. And as I say, I wasn't expecting to jump onto your call today, and I'll even pop my video on if you can see me. It's hot and sunny here in Florida, and I just appreciate you guys so much.
Thank you for coming.
We need to wrap it up, unfortunately, but we have one more question. Liz, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Sure. I just want to circle back to Tari because I'm very intrigued by your idea to have each person present their favorite cause, because to me, the evolution of that would be that then the like-minded people get together and develop a club project. And I'm wondering if, and then perhaps even a global grant around that concept. So I'm wondering if you're starting to see any of that next level evolution, or is it too soon for that for you guys?
I think one of the exciting things and is the fact that I am going to be DG next year, so I will have a little bit of extra money in my kitty to be able to do something, and I'm going to allow the members we shouldn't allow anybody, let it be a free-for-all in terms of sharing, but just for lack of a better word, allow the members to help me come up with the two projects, because I'm going to split it in two to make it 2 DMGs, and for them to find a partner in the district to actually do those 2 small DMGs with. So it'll actually introduce them to the concept of grants. So I think, if even partnering with another club that's doing a grant out there, such as, any club in district or beyond, and maybe putting in a small amount of money, even $200, $300, something that isn't bank breaking at the beginning, because you don't have a lot of money to start. It allows the club members to see how grants and everything works, because you are now part of it. So I think that's a great way to kind of start the introduction. But Liz, you can find me on Facebook or in my Rotary. My information is not blocked in my Rotary, so please feel free to connect offline. You mute, Steve.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Appreciate it, Tom. Appreciate your insight. Thank you, Sue, for allowing me to moderate the questions. I'll turn it back over to you now.
And I'm going to throw it right to our president, Diane.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much. This was such an invigorating program this morning. And as president of the Passport Club, you've certainly inspired us as a club. And thank you, Sue, for arranging this today. I think this was just what we needed. We just finished our strategic plan. And so now we have a new avenue to go forward. So thank you, Tom, Gloria, Steve, Jim, Lloyd, Tari, for coming on and joining us today. And Gloria, thank you, because as president, that was really helpful for me today. So thank you. So on that note, I'd like to say, I don't know if Michael and Shelley are still on, maybe not.
Yes, they're here.
Are they?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. Michael, is there anything you want to add today or?
No, we've had a full program, but next program, we've got to put aside a little bit of time for some fun. So,
Yes.
but I have to tell you, doing our four-way test is always pretty funny for what it's worth. So are we going to do that next?
We are.
All right.
Close on that note. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Have a great week ahead. And we wish you all well going through the hurricane. May you stay safe. And through COVID times, may we all be safe and well. So on that note, number 1, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Number 2,
Is it
Is
fair?
it
All
concerned?
concerned.
number 3,
Will
Will
it
build
build
Goodwill and better friendship.
and number 4,
Will be beneficial.
beneficial
all
concern.
I love it.
Well done.
Have fun.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Reminder to all
Bye.
club members, we do not have a meeting next week or Labor Day weekend. So we're back together on 9/11. Have a great couple of weeks and be safe.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Hey, everyone.